Hello, everybody. Welcome to Coach on a Couch. I'm your host, Jason Zaleski, and we are in Spring Sports 2019. And we are again being reunited with old friends, and we're new again. And we welcome back to the program Laschel Canfield, coach of the Spencer Rockets softball team. Coach, thanks for coming back.
No problem. Thanks for having me again.
Yeah. Well, what that means is the people that are watching here, when the coach comes back, that means we did all right the first or the time before. So I think we're doing just fine here. We're very excited for spring sports to be back. I know spring sports can be a real challenge because snow, rain, and wouldn't you know it, we had snow last year about this time, maybe just a week or so later in the season, and well, if we didn't get 10 inches of snow last week, and so here we are waiting for snow to melt and fields to get ready. But you have got a couple games under your belt. We'll talk about this season in just a little bit, and we can even talk about those games. But first, we'll kind of just reflect on last year a little bit. We'll reintroduce the audience to you. So this is your second year. So just like coming on the couch a second time, you came back to the team a second time. So it's your second year, and you're coming back. Just how are you liking being the head coach at Spencer?
I love Spencer. Spencer's, their community is so tight-knit, and it's great to be there. Everybody was so supportive last year. I couldn't believe the type of support I got. Even when I'm, just grocery shopping, it's like, oh, hey, how are you doing? They're fantastic, and they support their kids a lot over there. So it's great to be with a group of, with a community that is so welcoming of sports and know how it can enrich the kids' lives.
And that is evidenced in some of the programs I do. We do a highlight contest. We do it weekly, except during spring sports when there aren't any sports to show the highlights, the best of for the last week. We miss a week here and there, but through the years, oftentimes kids that get on the highlight, on the best of the highlights, the 3 to see, from Spencer have won more than they have not. And that just shows the support in the community because in a fan voting contest like that, you got to get everybody to come on and vote. Yeah. But it's a fun time. You just had one of your girls win that last week, and that was a lot of fun too, right?
Alexa Post,
yes. Yeah. She had a nice diving catch in the infield, diving, tumbling catch, but brought the ball in, and it was definitely fun. But yeah, community support you got to have that in a program.
Yeah, and expectations are a little bit higher, I think, this year too, because last year they graduated so many seniors. The year before I got there, it was 9 seniors, and then I only had 3 starting seniors, 5 seniors total, and so it was kind of everybody. They say the dreaded word that I hate, rebuilding year. I hate that word because how do you want to be a senior on a rebuilding year?
Right.
Losing that many seniors, and there was kind of like, well, whatever we do is good. But now this year expectations just feel a little bit high. There's a little bit more pressure. I feel like I'm even putting a little bit more pressure on the girls because I know what they're capable of, and so it's a little bit, it's different but same.
Yeah, so last year took your team all the way to a sectional final. It was a 1-0 loss against Pacelli, who's kind of a perennial playoff team. So your first year you go to sectional final, second year you win state. I mean, that's the math, right? Yeah. So.
Right.
It's a fun goal to have, and I'm sure that's something that even if it's not spoken out loud, it's something that everybody thinks about though is going to state.
I actually asked the kid, an opponent that we played this year already, and they're like, I asked them, it's like, so you guys thinking state this year? They're obviously not in our section, and they're like, isn't everybody?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, everybody should. It really should be one of those long-term goals that you have. You got to fight for something. Might as well put a star on something to reach for. But we don't talk about it a whole lot. So there's only one place we can talk about it is in the classroom. We do some classroom work, and I told the kids the first day, I don't want to hear it in the gym. We work hard to make sure we're working just as hard, if not harder, than every opponent that we're going to face, and we have our track on where we want to get. So, we want to get there, but got a lot of steps on the way.
Sure. All right, and then to finish recapping last year, played a lot of small ball last year, a lot of defense in the games that we covered for you. Tiffany Minders, who's back as a senior this year, we'll talk about her for sure during this interview. Racked up a lot of strikeouts. You had that defense behind her. Some of the seniors, you had Lexi Bear behind the plate. I mean, she was gunning down people left and right in the infield. Plus, nothing was going to get past her. And she's just a tremendous athlete behind the plate for you. and then another equally good athlete and a senior, Sadie Mercer, at shortstop. So when you've got a shortstop and a pitcher and a catcher like that, you can afford to play small ball. You can afford to try to win everything 3-2 or 2-1. And that was kind of the strategy last year, right?
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people didn't know that that was going to be our strategy, and it helped us get as far as we did. You know, there was no scouting reports on how I coached and things like that, and that helped us a lot. Playing small ball is my favorite thing about softball, because you have a great pitcher out there. You can still get some action happening if you have a good bunting team. However, with Tiffany leaving this year, we're focusing on some other things and being more offensively strong, which is looking good so far.
Right.
So,
right.
Plus, like you said, with losing Lexi, because having that strong middle, you know, with a catcher, pitcher, and a shortstop, because behind Lexi throwing all those people out with Sadie catching it and putting a good tag down. Yeah. You cannot have a fantastic catcher if your shortstop can't uphold her. Right. And Sadie did that for Lexi. And so we don't have that as much this year. We have some girls that want it, but it's getting there. Yeah. But yeah, so our strategy is changing a little bit.
Yeah, and then to at the end of last year, again, that sectional final, you made the long trip over to Markesan. Now in the playoffs, you only had one home game. You were on the road the rest of the time in the playoffs, and I think at one point I called you the Traveling Rockets or something like that, but you were traveling all over the state of Wisconsin. And then you talked about that community support, and let's talk about that a little bit more with the send-off that they gave you. Usually those are reserved for, we're going to state, we're going to have a big deal, but school really got behind the team, and before that sectional final game, had the big thing in the gym, and just talk about that.
I was surprised by that, because I was like, you guys are going to do a send-off already? We need to save it. And they're like, no, you guys. I was surprised at how many people showed up for our home game, our regional game. You know, for conference games, you know, those are during the day and or during the work week, and all of a sudden it became playoffs, and there was all these people, and I said, did Bangor really bring this many people? And my assistant coach was like, no, this is Spencer. Like, when it's playoffs, they come. And I think that was part of it, was that we made it so far, which nobody really thought we were going to. I mean, our batting average was only a little bit over 200, and they just wanted to be there. And not everybody could make the trip, so it was really nice to have everybody kind of rally up for that.
Right. Now, we talked about some of those seniors. I know we talked about Hopper Dietzel a little bit here off camera. We'll put her out there. And then you mentioned some of the other seniors that contributed. Just talk about what it was like to have them come through your program.
Oh, I wish I could have had them for more years. Yeah. All the kids that had to leave, you know, Lexi and Sadie, and they still stayed in touch. Lexi actually came for her spring break. She came and played with the kids a little bit, did a little bit of catching drills with them and stuff, which is awesome. I did it when I was playing after I played for Spash, I would come home and I'd get to go play with them and just be with the kids for a little bit. And I love that Coach Droner did that for me, so I wanted the other kids to know. And Sadie is like, I can't wait until school's done. I'm going to be there. And so it's nice to have that and everything. And Mia was such a cute kid that I loved coaching her, and I wish I had her for more years, because I think there was more that I could have pulled out of her. She played second every once in a while. And then Kayla she was a great kid to have too, because her leadership was tremendous, and it's hugely missed.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you brought up leadership, because that's exactly my next thing to talk about. So last year's juniors are this year's seniors. This is the second year you've had them as players. What kind of expectations do you put on your seniors?
I have very high expectations on seniors. I think seniority is such a huge thing, but it's given to them, but they have to also own it. So actually I have a lot of leadership happening in my junior class with Araya Shu and Danica Grippentrog. They've really stepped up in a huge way to kind of fill, you know, Kayla would do a lot of team bonding get-togethers, and Danica's been arranging some, you know, bowling nights with the team and things like that. Although my seniors are really stepping up in huge roles. You know, Tiffany's got her hands full with what she has to accomplish, but Shaylee Neitzel, she just is always getting the girls fired up, getting them ready, make sure everybody's doing what they need to do, getting their jobs done, and so she's really firing up too. Yeah,
good. All right, well, we're going to talk about this year in just a moment. Guys, you're watching Coach on the Couch. I'm your host, Jason Zaleski. We're visiting today with Spencer Rockets softball head coach Laschel Canfield. So, Coach, you talked about Shaylee Knight, so I was going to bring her up a little bit. I mean, she's a real foundation there at third base. You got to have one of those. We talked about your shortstop. She's already won a fan voting contest this year, so things are kind of rounding out. What are your first impressions of this year's team just a couple weeks into the season?
I'm surprised at our offense. I gave the kids a challenge about how we need to produce more runs. We need to, give Tiff more rest on the mound, and the only way to get that to happen is to get more runs so that we can put one of our underclassmen in for pitching, and to get our underclassmen some game time so that they're ready when Tiff is no longer there. And they've answered the call. We've put up huge numbers against Marathon. Not really that big against Phillips, but their pitcher was really well.
Still scored 6 runs in that game, though.
Yeah, we still did. That was a lot more. It's different coaching and just letting them round and round and round. And we have a huge middle this year with Shaylee. Her bat has really come alive this year. And then we have Chaley Robinson, who was our DH last year, and she's got some power. I asked her, I was like, "Did you start lifting weights?" And she's like, it's like she's really powerful. And Chloe's bat is reaching the grass really strongly this year too. Chloe's Drews is one of the seniors also. She'll be staying at second. She does such a great job there, and stuff comes off the bat weird when Tiff is pitching. So the right side is not an easy place to play when you have a pitcher that throws a lot of spin to the outside of the plate, and she just can judge those balls so well. So and then with her bat really reaching the grass is pretty nice. So
and then you've got speed on the bases. We talked to Araya Shu a week or so ago. We put her in the highlight house, but she deserved it. She had a great game that game. She scored a bunch of runs, had a bunch of RBI, reached a lot of bases, all those kind of things. And you and I talked about it and in the postgame, just the luxury of having that type of speed on the bases. Of course, she's your center fielder. She can cover all that ground out there. How else can you use Araya Shu?
Oh, my gosh. I wish I could use her everywhere because she is so fast. And having her in center field, it gives her a disservice. She doesn't get as much action as she would have if she'd have a different pitcher. And actually against Greenwood, we were trying to pitch for her to get one, and the girl kept on popping it up straight back, and I just yelled out to her. I was like, Araya, I'm trying to get you a ball. And then finally we did get her one. But then putting her on any other piece of the side of the field is just, I think about it sometimes just to get her more action. But having her on the bases with those power hitters behind her, and she's a great power hitter herself, so it's fantastic. And I don't know if you remember that Marathon game we tried doing a squeeze play, and we missed the squeeze, and she still ended up scoring because she's just so fast. Her speed is intimidating. And for me, being an ex-catcher, whenever I see anybody that fast, it makes me get a little bit nervous, and I'll tell her, take a huge lead. I hope they try picking her off because she is just so fast, and her reaction time is just so fantastic because you have to be that fast and be deadly with it. You have to have good reaction time, and she's got it, so it's fantastic.
Coach, since we have you here, we're going to do a little sports 101 with you. I didn't mention this to you off camera. We're going to do this a little bit. A lot of the audience is more familiar with baseball than softball. I think we could all agree to that. And in baseball, in high school baseball and beyond, you can lead off the base, and stealing becomes maybe more of a factor. But in your sport, talk about being able to advance around the bases and how the rules help and hurt you in that way.
So the rule is that you can't leave the base until it leaves the pitcher's hand. And so you have to time it to where you're coming off the base at the time the pitcher leaves their hand. And each pitcher pitches differently. So sometimes you try to time it with your front foot. And then there's many different ways of leading off the bases, which we haven't been able to do yet, but I want to challenge them to lead off different ways, and we'll see which one's fastest, so then we're not all leading off the same way. And but with baseball, I'm not as familiar. I'm not very familiar with any other sport.
Yeah, okay. All right,
I know they get to lead, but we only have to go 60 feet. Right. So it's similar in the reaction time that has to happen, unless you get a faster pitcher to get it down there. A lot of teams, they always end up pitching high on the first pitch, and to get the catchers ready to go. It's something very elementary that I've found that a lot of teams are doing. And not something that we do, but yeah, it's only by the time you lead off, you only have about 54 feet left to go. So it's very easy to steal bases, I think, in softball. It makes the game more exciting for me because there's a lot more action because there's a lot of stealing that does happen.
Yeah, and then sliding becomes a very important part too, and some of the fundamentals in that way as well. So let's talk a little bit about conference, and then we'll talk about season-ending expectations, and then we'll get you off the couch this time around. So Clover Belt East Conference is where you participate. Now it's your second year. You saw all those teams last year, and you mentioned Greenwood. You've seen one of your conference foes this year. Where do the Spencer Rockets fit in the Clover Belt East, do you think?
Well, I think we definitely fit up at the top. And, with them, we took our 4th straight last year, and Jason Gorst, of course, got those first 3. And so I want to continue that and get our 5th one this year. Although we have I told the girls, you're going to have a huge target on your back. Everybody's thinking about you in practice. They're wanting to take us down, and I think the girls are up for the challenge, especially with how I saw they brought the heat for Greenwood. Too many errors still. We got a lot of work to do, a lot of work, and I think that we should be able to continue with winning the title, hopefully. But the girls will have to bring it every single game.
Yeah, I think I agree with you there. I don't make predictions in high school sports. There's just too many variables, girlfriends, boyfriends breaking up, and all kinds of weird stuff going on. That's
not allowed in the gym. That's not allowed in the gym.
It makes it very difficult to know what's happening next. And, and 15, 17-year-old kids, just hard to predict what they're going to do minute by minute, let alone week by week. But with that being said, the conference, I wouldn't say it's bottom or top heavy. It's fairly evenly spread out, talent from top to bottom. But yeah, they'll have to bring their game all the time. I know the girls, and I'm going to miss a few, and the audience can yell at me. That's fine. But you're going to get good games from Neillsville. You're going to get good games, from the Greenwoods and the Loyals and all those schools. So got to be ready.
I was surprised with Greenwood because Tiffany had 18 strikeouts that game, and they have some really heavy hitters with Ostrike and Reese. It was a cold game, so Bondanovich did well, but Gilman's got a really good group of kids. They're going to be they're going to be hard, and we have a doubleheader with them, and they have their depth and their pitching is a lot stronger. But I told him I have a tiff, so and I have some other girls that are really working hard to make sure that she has support this year. So yeah, their Loyal's going to be pretty hard. They're all going to be hard. I mean, the Greenwood Columbus game was 10-10. Columbus is going to be scrappy this year, so we can't let up for a minute if we want to be where we want to be. So yeah, it's going to be tough. It's going to be a struggle. I love the struggle. It's fun.
With speaking for both of us here, being around sports all our lives, we know that how a team starts and just that camaraderie and the talent level is never how it finishes. Teams get better, or the good teams get better. I guess I'll say that, right? So the team's going to have to grow. The team's going to have to get better each game, better than they were the last. You've talked about your section a couple times. So playoff expectations, you care to weigh in on that?
I don't have any yet until I see how conference expectations pan out. Of course, like I said, everybody's wanting that big star at the end of your season, but we have a lot of work to do yet. There's a lot of people, like you said, Post is really stepping up into the shortstop position, but she still has a long way to go before we can even think about what we're going to do when regionals reaches us. So hopefully we get on some dirt soon and get to see some more ground balls off of dirt, and the kids stay strong with, like you said, they don't finish with the camaraderie the same way, or they don't start the same way they finish, and hopefully they just keep on building and bonding without those voids that the seniors left last year.
Right. Well, good. Well, Coach, thanks for coming back on. Just best of luck this year. I hope you have the best success. It's always more fun when the teams we cover are doing good things. So we're looking forward to that. Speaking of that, live streams available for Spencer Rockets and many other teams in and around Central Wisconsin are found at ZaleskiSportsShow.com, or check out the Zaleski Sports Facebook network every morning for the live stream schedule. That's where to find it. And we will see Coach Canfield and her Rockets a few times yet this year. Coach, thanks again for coming on.
Hopefully you'll come. I love your coverage that you do. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you all for watching. We got more Coach on the Couch coming up soon. We'll see you then.